Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sheets, obviously, and I'm going to be doing my early look at the NBA slate. I'm going to be doing this solo. Bobby's going to be there later for the live stream closer to 6 p.m. I'll be there for at least some of that. Hope everybody had a good extended holiday weekend. If you guys played DFS, hope you guys did well. We had some pretty good days here. Don't really feel like going over them all again, but had a good day in the NFL. Had a good day showdown Thursday. Yesterday wasn't so great as far as the NBA goes, but a lot of sports. And today, all we have is the NBA. There's no NHL today. There's no football today. There was a soccer slate earlier today, but all we have is the NBA slate. And it is a big slate, and I guess the feature tournament on that is the 2500, which I won a seat to in a satellite maybe a week or two ago. So I'm going to be firing that off for sure. And going to spend most of my time, not most of my time, it doesn't take that long, focusing on that particular tournament, but I'm going to build some MME stuff as well. So what we're going to do is, again, take this nice early look at the slate, and we're going to do an early Saber Sim build just for the fun of it. But as you guys know, I mean, stuff changes all day long, and 6 o'clock, people get ruled out you don't even think about. So it becomes kind of a speed game, you know, when it's like 6:30. Are you going to be able to redo all your lineups and think about how you want to change things? And then throughout the course of the night, are you going to be around to do the late swaps that are necessarily required? And one thing that is interesting, actually, let me change the settings here on the stream. Keep forgetting to do that. Sorry about this. One sec. Let's see. One sec. Sorry about this, guys. Customization, subscribers, minutes, check replay, and hit save. Just want to make sure that you're a subscriber, or at least a YouTube subscriber, if you want to chat. Feel free to ask whatever questions you want here. So first thing I want to look at is the way the slate spaces out. Let's pull this up here, because it's interesting. FanDuel broke it into 2 slates, and DraftKings kept it at 1. And unfortunately, things look to be pretty slow in Sheets world when it comes to launching this screen. But hold on a minute, I'll get it. One second. I don't know why this is taking so long. Nonetheless, DraftKings is including everything in the main slate, including the 2 10 o'clock games. So I know that DraftKings said they were going to not do that, but they're doing it. So let's pull this up. Edit, and here we go. Thanks, Joanne. I hope you did as well. So the way this kind of spreads out, you have 2 7 o'clocks, then 3 8 o'clocks, actually 5 8 o'clocks, and then a 2-hour break. Well, not necessarily a 2-hour break, but then 2 10 o'clock games. So if you're going to play this full slate, you really should be around at the very least to late swap these 10 o'clock games. And ideally, you should be around at 7:40 to late swap the 8 o'clock games, depending on what's happened in the early 7 o'clock games. Again, that's perfect play, and a lot of really strong players play that way. I myself, I'm going to be out to dinner tonight, so I'm unfortunately not going to be able to do the late swap of the 7, the 8 o'clock, but I'll be back in time to deal with these 10 o'clock games. So again, with the caveat that the whole slate can change as usual. Let's see what this slate looks like. Let's sort everything first by point per dollar. And the first thing that you'll notice, and this is the way slates have looked pretty recently, is that you don't really get, at least in the early stages of the day, a lot of really strong value, that being any of these 6x point per dollar plays. So what that ends up contributing to are these lineup builds that you don't get to play these 10K and up players with the same degree of impunity that you used to be able to. As value opens up, it's possible this changes, but you tend to see these 8K guys be the top plays, and you also tend to see pretty fishy value in the 5K range be pretty high owned. So again, the first thing that I want to actually look at before getting into the game by game, and this is actually pretty interesting, is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, all of these guys in the top are all between 7,700 and say 9,700. And even if you take Sabonis out, and ostensibly, some of them are not going to be highly owned. I mean, you just can't play everybody. So this is going to be an interesting slate where you continue to monitor the ownership projections. And if you're hand building, for example, you can really just pick like the lowest owned of these similarly rated plays. Like for example, like right now, if the slate were to lock or was about to lock, and we knew that these were going to be the ownerships, there'd be no reason really to play DeRozan at 24% ownership when it doesn't even project that much better than, say, Simons or Bonchero or these other guys. So that's one thing that I'm looking at as far as the slate goes. The other thing I want to note again is that when you rank these guys by point per dollar, you don't get anything under 6K even until like all the way down here, and this didn't used to happen. You didn't have these like the 30th best value be the first guy under 6K when you rate him by point per dollar. So it's just a different construct. So you're going to be getting, at least in my opinion, a lot of middling builds here. And as a result, that's why you're going to see some of these plays be pretty highly owned. Michael Bridges is only 7,400. I guess we'll talk about that in a minute. Zion is only 7,700. I don't even really know who they're playing yet. Actually, I do know who Brooklyn's playing, and that's pretty amazing that they're playing Detroit, and he's only 7,400. And he is going to be owned as a result of it. The next thing I'm going to notice before I even move forward is the top 2 guys are from Chicago. And that matters, they're playing, I think, who's Chicago playing? Washington? No, they're playing Atlanta, which, Atlanta plays a very high-paced game, which is why these guys are going to project well. So you might be able to play both of these guys, if in fact that they even play. I've heard rumors that, like when you look ahead, that Vooch is actually questionable. Let's take a look at that. Left abductor contusion. He hasn't missed a game since the 2001-2022 season. Well, I mean, if that's the case, I can't imagine this being the first time. But if in fact he is out, then you're going to have Drummond starting at 4,700, which is going to be extraordinarily strong. Before we even get into it, let's take a look at some of these questionables, I guess. Trae Young, he's getting some shots up, it said. I mean, he's questionable, trending in the right direction. I guess I'll presume he's going to play for now. Wembanyama was out before. But reading between the lines here, it looks as though he might not be given full run. That's just reading between the lines, though. Kawhi, questionable. And again, we know what to do if he's questionable. If he doesn't play, you just go right to Harden or Paul George. Interestingly, that game is not till 10:30. Okay, so that's something to keep a note of. Is that's a values piece that might emerge after these late games. So you want to probably, all else being equal, maybe delay and kind of slot one of those guys into your lineups. Remember, we're talking about the 8K guys as being pretty valuable. Paul George 8,700. You know, that may be one you want to slide in there. Towns, questionable. He left in the fourth quarter on when? On Saturday? I mean, he's had a couple of days to recover, but if he's out, you know, other guys are going to look to be pretty strong. And the last guy I have listed here, I guess, is Kuzma. He expects to play. So that's pretty much the end of the story. Okay. So I guess we'll go through game by game and kind of get back to this stuff. So like Orlando and Washington, I mean, you'd think that somebody from Orlando would be a good value, right? Because Washington, you know, they can't stop anybody. So here's one that's interesting. So Jalen Suggs is questionable. He's been out 2 games in a row. If he gets back in, maybe he's a good play. Let's see where I'm projecting him. I don't think I'm projecting him as in here. Let me take a look at it. No, I am projecting him as in and not even showing up as that great a play. So what the hell do I know? Banchero looks to be the strongest play from this game, and he is one of those 8K guys that we talked about. And I think this is going to be the theme. We'll get there, Big Cat. We'll get there, Smoky Cat. But Banchero looks to be the best play from this game, and I don't really see too much else from Orlando showing up here. What about Washington? Well, actually, there's Wagner at 7,900, so both of those guys look decent. I'm really not getting much of anything from Washington except Kuzma. And again, this is not the greatest value in the world, especially comparing to these guys up here. But I've done worse things than create a little game stack with like Banchero. Where's what's his name? Where's Kuzma? Kuzma, actually, obviously wouldn't put him there, but well, they're both just power forward eligible, that makes it hard. But let's just say we put him in forward, and then we went to Wagner here. Actually, we want to put him in. And again, I'm practicing for this 2,500 that I'm playing to see if I want to hand build this thing. So if I wanted to get right off the bat and just, screw all the late games, put something in, go out to dinner, and then woohoo, just go straight with Wagner, Kuzma, Banchero, and then just hope they just smash it. It's certainly possible. And the other one I would just throw in, I mean, just because he rates to be okay point per dollar is Wendell Carter Jr. But, I mean, the guy's played no minutes since he's come back, so I just really don't think I can do that. Just so you guys know, the other thing we're going to do at the end of this, we are going to run a Saber Sim build to see what we would get. All right, so Brooklyn against Detroit. Detroit's coming off their, they're obviously a huge losing streak going on right now. We got a couple of questionables. Durant is probable. Isaiah Stewart is probable. So we rate, those guys are all probably going to play. Who else? Killian Hayes, probable. So all these guys are probably going to be in. I mentioned that Mikal Bridges was only 7,400. I didn't believe that, but it seems to be the case. I guess he has been 7,400. What do I know? I guess I've been playing him on FanDuel. He's coming off a 51-point game against these exact Detroit Pistons. 7,400, you would think, right? We're going to look at the sheets in a second. We would think that looked pretty good. And then Dinwiddie, 6,900 maybe. And if we were going to play Detroit guys, these would be the guys I would think would show up, would be something like Cunningham, Bogdanovich, or Ivy. But let's just take a look and see if the projections support that. Yeah, Michael Bridges, strong play. Cade Cunningham, strong play. And then we would go down to Dinwiddie as the next guy. So, again, if we want to go ahead and try to do some stack or something like that, you play Cunningham at point guard, and you see we can't play all this stuff. And then you play Michael Bridges at small forward or power forward. We'll take the Orlando guys out for a minute. And this isn't bad. I mean, you could play Dinwiddie as well. But I think this is a good little mini stack that you can play. You know, if this game goes decidedly over the total, it's probably because both these guys, you know, did business. I didn't see such a great projection on Bogdanovich, on Bojan. Let me just see what that looks like. Bojan is not too bad, but I really don't want to go to the bottom 40. But I don't know. Like, once again, like if you want to attempt a game stack, you have to think they're going for that win as hard as possible at this point. So, I mean, if you want to do this, again, I've done worse things in my life than do some full-on Detroit-Brooklyn stack here between Dinwiddie and Bridges and Cunningham and Bogdanovich and just rock the house. I mean, I think that's certainly reasonable. Are Utah San Antonio? So I mentioned Wembanyama. And again, if I'm going to get to all these kind of like suppositions and questions in here. But let's just take a look at this one first. So this is, who did I say? San Antonio against Utah. So, okay, you have Vassell and Sohan, both looking pretty good. Where is Wembanyama? Do I have him projected well? I mean, not bad, actually. I mean, this is not terrible. So Wembanyama, Vassell, and Sohan, that looks pretty good. But again, we have to worry about, I think, whether Wembanyama gets full minutes. Let's take a look at this a little bit. So he's been off for 4 days. I mean, what do they want to do here? So he had an ankle. He participated in morning shoot-arounds. That's something. Abundance of caution. He had been playing right through ankle soreness. He stepped on a ball boy's foot in warm-ups. Oh, goodness. He wanted to play Saturday, but they said no. Okay. All right, well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Like, we'll watch for coach speak as far as this one goes. But I think this is reasonable, these guys. Now let's see what about Utah. Utah, yeah, the problem is I really don't see anybody on Utah. I have to go all the way down to, well, let's pull this sheet up again. To Lowry, Markkanen. But, I mean, if I am going to stack these guys, then I can be a little more lenient with my projections, you know. So something like this, I don't want to play all three, but maybe 2 of these guys with Markkanen to get this whole thing going. It's possible. But I don't think that I would play, say, Markkanen unless I was using him as part of a stack. Like these guys I could play kind of as one-offs. They just project a little bit better. They just rate a little bit higher. Actually, that's not true. I mean, you have really splitting hairs here between these projections. You do have Markkanen with a lot more competition at this price tier, though, between, say, Kawhi and Sengun. But, I mean, he will probably be significantly lower owned as well. I mean, I see him at 3%. So if you want to do this, once again, I think this is turning into like one of those slates where you can play a couple of stacks here. All right, so Minnesota, Oklahoma City, a couple of people were yeah, I saw that big, yeah, Cat, perfect. Yeah, he was going to be on a minutes restriction. And he said he wanted to play anyway. They said no. So I'm kind of inclined to not play him. But we'll see. Minnesota, Oklahoma City. So you're bringing up a couple of things. You're asking if Jay Williams is out, then we like SGA. Let's just take a look at that for a second. So he is listed as questionable. He was injured in the Monday report. His status is unclear. All right. So that's that. And it's also the front end of a back-to-back and the first of 3 and 4. In addition to that, we have Giddy is questionable. He left Thursday and he missed Saturday. So that's interesting. So let's see, first of all, what the projections look like and what the projections presume. So first of all, I think that I saw Shea as a pretty good play. So that, yeah. So Shea looks good anyway. Okay. But let's just see. Is Jalen Williams? Is it Jalen or Jay? Well, let's just put Williams. So I don't mess this up. Zion I have in. Patrick Williams in. Jalen Williams I have is in. And still, Shea looks like a strong play at 10-5. I also have, if I'm not mistaken, Giddy as in. And Shea looks like a good play at 10-5. So if those guys are out, either of them, I mean, to go back to Smoky Cat's question, or or Big Cat's supposition here about, or his proposition of what happens if Jay Williams is out. I think that if we can, I mean, this is copping out, right? But I think that if we can get to Shea, I think it's a pretty good idea. I think at current value levels in the other plays, I don't think that it's going to be optimal to get to him. But I think that if in one bit of value kind of shows up, I think we'll be able to do it. And I think he is a guy that if we can get to him, I think it's worth trying. For example, I mean, I'll just show you what happens if you play him. You play him right away, you're already at 5,600 a man, and as I've shown you, there's not a lot under 6K at all. It's just very difficult to play 10-5 guys in this particular, in this particular slate. Okay. Also on Oklahoma City, by the way, our old friend Chet looks reasonable at low ownership. He's 7,700. You'll see that he's competing with Zion at the same price, and you'll see that he has about a third of the ownership. Now he's also projecting, what, a point lower? Not even? I mean, is that worth it? No. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do here. So I think Chet's a very, very good play from this game as well. Now, again, if Jalen Williams is out again, I think just more usage goes elsewhere. So I like that. I don't really see anything from Minnesota that looks great. I mean, there's Gobert, I suppose. However, you have to keep an eye on the injury report. As I mentioned earlier, if Towns is out, then all this other stuff opens up. You have Kyle Anderson, Gobert, everybody, Naz Reid. So you got to watch for that. But aside from that, I do think that Chet's a reasonable play to get to. And I think that if more value opens up, you can get to Shea. Or you should try to get to Shea. All right, Atlanta against Chicago. Alluded to this point a little bit earlier. If Vooch is out, then you have Drummond starting at 4,700, which is going to be, the chalkiest play on the slate and probably impossible to fade, or at least very difficult to fade. I mean, Vooch, it says he has not missed a game since the 2001-2022 season. So I'm doubting he's going to miss just based on that. But if he does, then, never mind, everything I said earlier. If that's the case, then you want to probably play Drummond and get to Shea, for example. Aside from that, as I said earlier, you have Vooch himself and DeRozan looking to be two very, very strong plays here in that mid-range. So if, in fact, he does play, he could be a pretty good – he could be strong, as could DeRozan. Now, for some reason, I'm just not getting to Kobe White until – well, I am, but just he's not quite as strong. But I think, you know what, if I'm going to play these other guys in this range here, I think that Kobe White's certainly reasonable. At 16% ownership, I think that's probably a little high. Let's take a look. Where's Kobe White? They have him point guard only. That's weird. I thought he sometimes plays shooting guard. So all three of these guys look pretty good. All three of them also are going to garner some ownership, anywhere between, well, 25% for DeRozan, maybe 15% for Kobe White. Not much for, and even 11% for Vooch. So you're not doing yourself, it's not that big of a deal to play these guys, but they do rate really well. So DeRozan, Vooch, I think would be my top guys. And of course, if Vooch is out, then I would play, Drummond pretty much across the board. Is Vooch a better play? Here's an interesting question. Is Vooch a better play at 8K at 11% ownership than, say, Chet at 7,700 center at 5% ownership? I actually think it's close. I mean, Vooch rates significantly higher. Is it worth twice the ownership? I actually think it is. I think it's actually pretty close between Vooch at his ownership and Chet at his. Atlanta, Trae Young is probably going to play, so you don't have to worry about that. If he didn't, then all the DeJounte Murray and all that stuff would come into play. Aside from that, well, first of all, same comment for Trae as it would be for Shea, for SGA. If you can get to him, great. I don't think that you should play guys up here unless guys like Drummond open up. That's my opinion. We'll see what Saberson has to say about that when we run the builds, though. And currently, not really getting to too much of anybody else. Memphis, New Orleans. All right, we alluded to him before, but let's pull up Zion, who for the first time, and it seems forever, is not on the injury report. 7,700 is really cheap for him. And listen, I think it's deservedly cheap because Memphis plays some pretty good defense. But even with that said, I mean, he's showing up as a pretty strong play here. 13% ownership looks about right, and it's very solid. You also get Valanciunas from New Orleans showing up, not bad. And Ingram showing up, not bad as well. So let's see what that type of thing looks like. Now, the problem with that is that I think you don't want to play these types of guys together. Especially, say, Zion and Valanciunas, because they really just are competing for the same rebounds. I mean, you could play two of these three together, but I think it should be max one between Zion and Valanciunas. But again, if you want to stack this game, again, do this. I think that's totally within reason. Now, again, I don't think in general they're going to be that popular, just because, again, Memphis is a pretty good defensive team, and people know that. Well, listen, the projections are what they are. All looks reasonable. Memphis, on the other hand, as we look through this, I don't see anybody until you get down to, say, all the way on the 35th, and that would be Ja. Now, obviously, Ja has upside here. So, again, if you wanted to stack and you can afford it, like if you can play this, Ja with these two dudes, you would need to have something like Drummond open up, and even that doesn't do enough. I mean, we'd have to get a little more value open up to do that. But so that's one of the reasons why, again, Ja is just going to be very difficult to get to. But these two guys from New Orleans look pretty good. As far as Memphis goes, that's pretty much it, is Ja, so I'm not really going to get to too much anything over there. Indiana against Houston. So you have Bruce Brown out, which I want to see if that, if I accounted for that in my projections. Yeah, I am accounting for it, but I think that this has got to change. I think that some of these Indiana guys are going to have to show up a little better. Like Buddy Hield was probably look a little better. Where's Matherin? What's wrong with his projection? Why don't I have him projecting well? 5,100. I mean, you would think that with Bruce Brown out, he would project a little better. So we're gonna take a look at that. Let me just see one thing. Yeah, I mean, 21 points. It seems to be what I'm getting across the board from him. Buddy Hield's 26 points across the board from him. So you would have thought that with Bruce Brown out, that these guys would be show up a little more, but they're just not. I mean, the first guy I get to in Indiana isn't. I mean, it's Buddy Hield, but it looks miserable. I want to make sure there was another questionable here. No, Turner is in, Toppin is in, Jalen Smith is in. I mean, all these guys are in, so we're just going to rely on these projections and just really not getting to much of Indiana. What I am getting to is Sengun from Houston. I'm also getting to Van Vliet, it looks like, right? Because, like I said, I mean, Indiana plays really, really fast, and everybody's in a pace-up matchup against them. And Houston usually plays pretty slow. So I think that both these guys look good. So Sengun and Van Vliet. Problem is, it's not a problem, but I don't really want to play anything on the Indiana side. So wait, there's another Houston thing I'm looking at here. So Tari Eason, what's he been doing? He's been messing around with everybody's projections. He sat. No, he was out, and then came back on Saturday. So I presume he's going to be in again. Let me see what it says. Oh, because it's the first end of the back-to-back. Maybe they sit him. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. So all these Houston guys, you'd imagine it being a good pace-up spot here. So you'd expect to see a good projection from Jabari Smith, Dylan Brooks even, Jalen Green, Fred Van Vliet, Sengun. And the guys I am actually seeing are Sengun and Van Vliet. So those are the top two guys. And again, I don't really want to stack anything. I don't want to stack this game because I don't really have too much on the Indiana side. But certainly playing either of these two guys or even them together, Van Vliet and Sengun makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Big Cat is saying Brooks looks nice. I would love to get to guys like this, but you know, I hate to say it. It's at some level, I do have to rely on the projections a little bit. Let me just confirm what I got for him. I mean, 5,400. That's my median projection is 22. But let me just see how that breaks down. Every once in a while, I'll just see like an outlier in the models that will make me change something. Let me just see if I like this one. Yeah, okay, maybe another point, but not much. I mean, honestly. What am I getting from this guy? Hold on. What is this? Okay. No, I'm not really getting to him too much today. I mean, it seems like a good spot, though. So I don't want to talk you often, but as far as the projections go, that's not good. All right. So then there's a 2-hour break, or we're going to have at least in start time. And these are the games you're supposed to want to play because of, you know, the flexibility. So let's just see if anything actually shows up here. We have, yeah, so this fits the bill. I mean, you have Sabonis. The only problem is it's going to be hard to play him, again, at this price. And I guess Fox is okay, but 9,500 is no bargain. And by the time we get down to the next guy, which I presume is something like Malik Monk, yeah. I mean, these are $6,300 guys that are just not projecting all that great. So, if anything, I would love to play, again, something like Sabonis. But, again, it's tough just to afford this. Now, here, just putting him in, 5,700 a man is fine. I mean, this we can do. So let's put him in for now and see what else we come up with. Anything good on Portland? Yeah, actually. So Anthony Simons, I brought up earlier, is one of the top plays on the slate. You know, he has multi-position eligibility at the guard position. He's got that nice little price tag. He's being owned somewhat reasonably at 12%. And then you also have DeAndre Ayton, who normally I would say, listen, he's rated 15th, not a big deal. But again, because of that late game flexibility, I think we give him a bump, as we might to something like Jeremy Grant, who also shows up pretty well. So that throws a little bit of a monkey in the wrench, so to speak. So if we want to play say, Simons. We play all these guys? I mean, we can't play all of them, but who's the other guy we want to play for Portland, we said? Grant, pretty reasonable. I mean, you play two guys from Portland. You can almost play Sabonis if you get one more piece of value. You know, so, but I think the point of this one is that even if you don't get to too much Simons or Grants, or even, for example, Ayton in your builds, I think you should probably up the projections on them just because of the flexibility the late game provides. Now, this is interesting. We have Ayton is questionable, and that came out last night. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. And if we don't get that news by the 7 o'clock games, it might be worth taking a shot at something like him, you know, so that we can we could swap over to Sabonis if we need to, but like if he's out, you're going to get again these cheapos, whether it be Duop Reith at 3,800 or Baji. Did he get minutes? No, or even better, what if we get Moses Brown, who might get some extent? I mean, you get 16 minutes of Moses Brown, that could be worth something. So this is really interesting. I think that the longer this questionable tag hangs around, I think it's worth kind of holding off. And not to mention Jabari Walker, who could play 20, play minutes in Ayton's absence. Kamara might get some more rebounds or whatever it is. So Ayton being questionable, I think is it's possible that gets ignored. Smokey Cat is saying that Eason, THT, and Keontae George are in. Okay, thank you. So I don't have to worry too much about the Tari Eason play. It does downgrade, I guess, Markkanen a little bit, but not too much, if at all, really. And it doesn't really do much, I think, to Markkanen with respect to Keontae George. But that is very good information. Thank you very much. Okay, so last game, Charlotte against, and then we're going to run a Saberson build. Then we have Charlotte against the Clippers. So I mentioned this earlier. So Kawhi is in. Oh, no, Kawhi George. Keontae George. So Kawhi is questionable. If in fact that he is out, okay, I know that one of these guys is probably going to be a good play, right? Wow, they made Harden 9,100, huh? Tough. But I mean, if Kawhi is out, that's a pretty reasonable price for him. You can get 50 really easily. And then likewise, if Kawhi is out, Paul George at 8,700. I mean, he could. Now, in fairness, he hasn't gotten there the whole year. I mean, he has over 50 one game. Oof, that's rough. That'd be really rough. I mean, listen, the Charlotte doesn't play a lot of defense, but oof. I think I prefer Harden even. But certainly, these guys have to get bumps. Let's take a look at the projections here and see what we have. So Kawhi right now is looking to be the best of the Clippers. So if he's in, I probably won't play any of them, but maybe. I mean, can you really play Kawhi with all three of them in there? I don't know. And when you look down here, I don't really see anybody else. I don't see any other Clippers. I don't see any Charlotte guys at all. Just take a look real quick and see like what Rozier would be. All right, he's 33rd listed. That's not the end of the world, I guess. Like Powell, what does he look like? I mean, not really. What does Harden look like here, by the way? 57. So I guess the one interesting question I would have is maybe like a super low-owned Terry Rozier. That would probably be my only exposure from Charlotte, and I might play. I mean, that's you talk about comparing these $8,500 guys. I mean, let's do that for a second, just for fun. Let's look at, for example, what was Rozier projected, just median, for example. Is Rozier playing today? I thought he was playing today. Just had him. Hold on a second. Did I delete him from my list somehow? No. Just a second. Yeah, I guess he's is he out? Oh, he's been removed from the injury report. Okay, yeah, I didn't have him projected. So if that's the case, why do I not have him projected though? It's really odd. I guess he didn't play the last game, so I have to fix that. But yeah, I think that Rozier is probably the one guy I might consider. I don't even know why I thought I saw him projected before, but it's not anymore. But anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much the game by game. But let's do a SaberSim build. My natural instinct is to not stack this game in the either of these games in 2,500 and just go for like the individual plays. Let's just take a look. Hold on, let me just see. Does SaberSim have him projected? Rozier? Yeah, 38 points. All right, let's include him for now. So let's upload. We have to change his name from Cameron Thomas to Cam Thomas, of course. We're gonna include we're gonna include everybody. Okay. So let's build, let's say 50. We'll do that. We'll build 50 lineups. Well, we're building 5,000 lineups. But we're going to display the top 50 and see what we get here. Yes, that's the first thing I have to. Why was I not getting? That's the first thing I'm going to do actually after I get off of this is go back to Terry Rozier and find out what's going on with that. All right. So we're going to look at it a couple of different ways. First, we'll just look at it from the straight SaberSim perspective, and then we should probably do a contest sim just to show you guys again. We're doing this for the first time, how to do that. Before I do that, I want to see why I don't have Terry Rozier for a second. Hold on. I do have Terry Rozier. I don't know what everybody's talking about. Hold on a minute. 1 second, everybody. This is like confusing. There he is. Oh, why number 4? All right, Terry Rozier was in fact 40 fantasy points. So he's a full. Hold on a minute. How bad of a play he is he? 5 points lower than DeRozan. That's a lot. That's definitely a lot. So I don't know if I can do it. He's only 1 point lower than Simons at the same price. Actually, it's not exactly the same price as 8,500, right? Yeah, that's tough. But okay, let's see what we got here. We have, well, this is not what I was expecting. So what we're getting on first run is, of course, 92% DeRozan, which at least I understand. 90% Claxton. Okay. We'd be getting 80% Jeremy Sohan and who? And 70% Andrew Nembhard. Okay. Brandon Miller, Patrick Williams. So they don't believe me that I can get to these 8K guys, I guess. It's like forcing me to play all of these fishy 5K guys. And I guess that's just the way it is. I'm not playing Wendell Carter Jr. unless he shows me some minutes. So this is what this has become, you know, with this tight pricing, is playing these like kind of really awful 6K guys just to be able to make a lineup together. Let's take a look. Let's do a contest sim. Well, we'll do the 2500 and we'll do the fadeaway. What is this one? World Championship. You know, let's do them all just in case I play these things later. Probably shouldn't, honestly, but I might. So when you add these from that contest tab, it automatically adds them in here. So we're going to check all these off. And what this does again is it just real quick for everybody. So this will show you how many people are in the tournament or how many entries rate to be in the tournament, what percent is paid to first, you know, what percent of entries are paid. Because what that does, it shows you, you know, it attempts to create lineups specifically for those particular tournaments. Clay, do I put the filter on when I'm using SaberSim? Which filter? I usually just use straight default settings. You used to have to. Oh, Eric, I got to give you info, right? Yeah, if you want to send money back to that same PayPal, you can do that. I don't know if you even did it yet. But yeah. Or you prefer to send BTC, literally whatever's easier for you. Oh, that's an interesting question right there at All-Star. All right, let's so we did this the contest sims, and let's see what it looks like first for the fadeaway. In the fadeaway, nothing really has changed. Like all this Sohan, 92% Sohan. Now again, there are things you can do, such as make min unique say 4, and this way it evens it out a little bit. Now we only have 72% Claxton. But that's a tough sell for me to play all that Claxton, if you want to know the truth. It's also a tough sell for me to play all that Wendell Carter Jr. So I might have to go tell SaberSim and tell the Sims to take a hike on this one. And I know that's not the most analytical thing in the world, but you know, last I heard, this was the United States of America, and I can do whatever the hell I want, including not play Wendell Carter Jr. or 75% Nick Claxton. I just want to compare to see what this looks like compared to what the Mega Millionaire Maker thing was. I mean, not too different, right? It's the same thing. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough night in the NBA unless some value comes out, because the guys that they want me to play the most are guys I just refuse to play. Oh, that's some kind of existence, isn't it? With respect to hockey All-Star, I was about to say, why don't you reserve that for a hockey thing, but I never do a live hockey thing, so you don't have a chance to ever ask the question. I actually prefer the 5-2. As far as hockey goes, I prefer max correlation, and then followed by 4-3. I only really even play 3-3-2s on small slates. That's my opinion. But listen, SaberSim will create the best lineups and factor that in. But all else being equal, I like to play the 5-2s and the 4, and then the 4-3s, then the 3-3-2s, and I'll even play 6s. We'd really stack the crap out of some Okay, I guess that's all I have. About 6 o'clock. No, you know what? If you guys care, I'm gonna do it anyway, whether you care or not. I'll do one for FanDuel. I won't go through the whole game by game, just to show what it looks like, because it is a little different because it just has those first 7 games. And what I want to do is just so I can see if the just so I can see if there's any real outlier on FanDuel. Let's build. We'll build 50. Why not? We'll do the same thing. What did I have for Claxton? Let me go back to this for a second. What's so great about Claxton? Well, I know. I think what's so great about Claxton. I didn't even have him at all again. Yeah, something was going on here. Whereas here I have, but I don't have Claxton for some reason. So what I did was I just used the Saberson projection, but that kind of skews things. Oh, I think I know what happened. So I have a Nick Claxton, but then there's a Nicholas Claxton. Looks so annoying. So I have to correct the spelling over there. Nick Claxton. Should have this, though. Anyway, let's take a look. FanDuel, same deal. DeRozan, Vassell, Nembhard, Sohan. Okay, Cam Thomas shows up a little bit more. And here I actually have Nick Claxton. Oh, okay, because Nick is not Nicholas. Is that the story? I don't know what's going on. That's probably it. It was probably just a spelling thing, which I will fix. DeRozan, Vassell, Nembhard, Sohan. Cam Thomas is the one difference. Maybe some more Demi Avdia, and that should do it. Let me just finish running this one more thing. And I will update the Claxton thing at some point. Let me just talk through this myself, because now I'm a little confused. Claxton, no. When I search for, this is definitely not what you guys want to see. But, yep, there's a Nicholas Freak. This is what happens. This is what happens. So one joker put Nicholas Claxton, one model put Nicholas Claxton in their spelling, and so it messes up the whole system. So we're going to change. Look at this. I have this whole find replace thing. And all these different spelling errors these clowns have. I have to add them to this freaking list. Right? So I get the correct spelling, which is Nick Claxton. Now we do this. Now all the Nicholas Claxtons can become Nick Claxton, and then with any luck, the projections will change, and then with any luck, I won't get 10 million%. Oh, do I filter players to score 18 points and above and play 21 minutes or more? No, I do not. I just kind of let it roll. So now let me just see again if Claxton shows up. So now we get Nick Claxton. This is like really behind the scenes stuff. So now you're going to see me up. All right. This is what you're going to do. Only because this is the order I'm doing it. I'm updating the projections, the Claxton projection. Then I'm going to rerun that SaberSim build and see if there's a difference. You watch. To really just rub it into me, now they're going to be like 100% Nick Claxton. But let's see. Upload new projections. Yeah, so if I were going to do that, to further answer your question a little bit deeper, to say, okay, so give me projections and build lineups, but if I don't have them project if I don't have an individual person projected for X to exclude him, that kind of, I don't know, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. To me, I want the best lineups, not just the best players. So if there's a guy who has a median projection, for example, of 18 or 17, first of all, in some lineups, 17's plenty. The other thing is if your median is 17, that doesn't mean that I want to exclude his upside outcomes where he scores 25, for example. What you might want, listen, if you want to filter players that have projected to have a ceiling of 30 and above or something like that, that's fine. But I don't think that I don't think I need to filter out my player pool. The one filter I will make is when I'm building my own projections, I have my own minimums of like 1 point, I think. Let's see if we escape the Claxton. Let's see. Look at that. How good are we? Now only 64% Claxton. All right. That's you can't control him. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him, right? But we contained him a little bit. But now, in return for that, we're getting more Andrew Nienberg. So we'll rerun the contest sims. And I am even more confused. Like if the slate locked in an hour, I think I know what I would do. I don't know. Like if let's say I wasn't getting Andre Drummond news, I don't know. I thought I could build easier than they're leading me to believe here. But I guess you have to get to these 5600s eventually. So I guess the idea is that Niemhardt's the best of the 5Ks. Now, here's another interesting thing that I do see. I do see a couple of differences. So the first thing I'll notice, and this is like stuff that I think about, is I see that I have my projections are 4 points less than SaberSim's for Niemhardt, for example, and yet still I'm getting all this. So let's see. Fade away with the new runs. Same thing. You just can't avoid Sohan, can you? Claxton. 78% Claxton. And excuse me, 76% Wendell Carter Jr. All of this means that this is a really good slate to skip for me. I'm not actually going to skip it. I'm playing the stupid 2500, but it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest slate for Sheets. Let's put it that way. Since I've now gone full circle and spoke about myself in the third person, which is complete evil, I will call this a day. Good luck, everybody, and Bobby, we'll see you at 6.